live on our radio networks, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio. And you can go directly to our website right now at womenforprogressradio.com, womenforprogressradio.com. And of course, there's an immediate link for all of our live broadcasting. And also, if you'd like to go back and see, listen to an edition of this show, there's a link there also. And what's wonderful about our new website for Women for Progress Radio, also there's a list of all the podcasts and radio programming by the Women for Progress Radio Network. And we're so excited today at 5:30 to be launching a new podcast called Wealth and Wellness with Dr. Olga Olsby, who's one of the most incredible experts and women and researchers and social workers and professors in this part of our country. And so we're excited to be launching this program with her in partnership with Clean Slate, her organization. And it's going to be an amazing conversation because she has a great perspective on everything around community and empowering community and women. So please tune in today on our Facebook Live. I'm sure we will have fixed all of our issues by then. So at 5:30 today, from 5:30 to 6:30 on the Women for Progress MS page, and of course on all of our radio networks. And I just want to say again, to simplify all of that, go to womenforprogressradio.com and you can find that link there where you can access that program and all of our program that's coming up. Tomorrow at Thursday at 5:30, we have the Women for Progress radio show Man Cave edition with Dr. Phillips and his whole team, and that's another great conversation for you to tune in to for the men perspective. We are in support of men, and we want to hear their voices also. So you can tune in once a month, every fourth Thursday, for the Women for Progress radio Man Cave edition. So today my guest is attorney Kimberly Campbell, who is the state director for AARP. And I'm so excited to have Kimberly with us today. And of course, she is not a newbie to Women for Progress Radio.
Yeah.
I think you've even hosted the show with us. Is that right, Kimberly?
I have. I missed those days, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, don't worry about it. You'll be on the list, I'm sure, soon. Good. So you're not off the hook yet. But Kimberly, I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you today. You always bring great information. So we have a lot that I want to cover today and discuss. But I want to, in the month of June, this particular conversation today is going to be launching a conversation that we're going to have in the entire month of June about creating community. What we want our community to look like, to walk like, to talk like, to be like, to empower, to inspire as we move forward and hopefully getting beyond COVID-19, however long that takes us to do that. But during this process of us surviving and trying to begin to thrive again, we also we know that we need to think strategically about what we want that to look like beyond that. And it's just so important for us as women. We're today, of course, the Working Woman Report is programming to spotlight the work of women, but we also want to talk about the impact of COVID-19 to women into our community and how we make sure that we create dialogue and conversations and solutions and ideas around how we move forward and what that looks like. So I want to share a statement from Dr. King about what he talked about many times about the beloved community. Dr. King devoted his life to creating the beloved community. By doing so, he showed us the path to society that maximizes empathy, compassion, and love, also leads to health and well-being. We can realize Dr. King's dreams, but to get there, America needs to deal successfully with unresolved issues of class and race. Specifically, we need to share the social product more equally and provide a livable income for all, while at the same time removing any and all structures that promote and allow racism or any other form of discrimination. And I thought you would be a great guest for us today because of the work that you're doing not only in your personal life, but also the work that AARP is doing to empower communities. And I think that work really speaks to creating a community that is a beloved community that addresses these issues that impact our community. So please speak to the mission and goals of AARP, because it has evolved over the years and become this powerful asset for us, specifically in the African American community.
Yes, absolutely. Again, thank you, Willie, for having me. It's always a pleasure being with you and being in the audience with all of those that pay attention to the Women for Progress and the great work that you all do in the community. You're right. AARP has really grown over the years. I think sometimes some demographics tend to remember what we were 30 years ago or even, 40 years ago. But we've really grown. I mean, we play in a lot of different sandbows, as they say. Now, of course, our crux will always be the 50 plus and older. But our tagline includes "and their families." And because we live differently now and we age differently and we live longer, 50-year-olds still have elementary age children. Yeah. And so because of that, we have an arm that deals with, the education system. We have, situations in other states to where AARP offices are really tied to education, public school, and things that they do along those lines. We're big on hunger. We're big on, food deserts and helping people get the nourishment and the fruits and vegetables that they need. Of course, our big stuff will always be Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, solvency. But we really play in a lot of different things. Broadband was big. Here we do a lot of federal work, so I am back and forth to D.C. quite a bit. But we also do a lot of state level work. So last year, some of our state advocacy was just that, really pushing getting broadband throughout the state of Mississippi. That was a big win for us, but we still have a long way to go. I felt it was interesting that just last year, some of the arguments we were making, we saw now happening when COVID hit, was that, those rural communities, you've got to really get them up, get them online, have stronger internet services. And it's not about just for people to play games, although that is a part of it sometimes. Even in the older demographic, it helps combat what we call social isolation, but it also helps with jobs, employment searches. But really, we have a lot of grandparents, as you know, especially in the minority community, but really in the rural community, period. I don't care about the race. You have a lot of grandparents that are raising grandchildren. And what we heard this year in particular was that school distancing, they could not get it. They had issues with being able to be in contact. And so, it's one of those things where we really try to have vision and look down the line. And so we fight for certain things that we think will really be good, but really all, one of the things that we say is what we do for one, we do for all. So we are nonpartisan, although depends on what we support. Sometimes the left thinks we're too right, and sometimes the right thinks we're too left. And sometimes I say, well, that means we're doing it right. If no side is ever completely with us, that means we're doing it right, and we're trying to do what's best for everyone in the community.
Also, I think AARP is a good organization because this is a big national organization that is in communities all over our country. And those communities are very, very diverse. During this COVID-19 crisis, what does AARP see the real need for community, and how have AARP seen the impact in various communities throughout the country?
Right, and just to give you just a little insight, so AARP, our national office, of course, is in D.C., but we have a state office in all 50 states, as well as the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. So that's a big wingspan. That's a lot of work that happens really everywhere. And so each state is unique. Each state has different demographic makeup, different racial makeup. And so sometimes the advocacy looks different in California than it may look here in Mississippi. But with COVID-19, that was really something that really brought all communities together. That was one of the things to where, you always want to say there's a silver lining in everything that happens. And so don't misunderstand what I'm saying. COVID has been horrible. We understand people have lost jobs. They've lost income. They've lost lives and loved ones. They haven't been able to get to loved ones at, during the end of life. We get all of that. So I always want to say, don't miss what I'm saying. I fully understand it, and I have my heart and compassion goes out. But let's look at the silver lining of it, and that's that many of us had to get back to community. You know, we really started acting like communities did 50 years ago. You know, the communities that I remember my grandparents talking about, you know, which was really being concerned. You have a neighbor that can't go out. She's got issues. She's older. People were calling and saying, I got it. I will go do your grocery shopping for you. I will get you the supplies that you need. So that's what we started hearing everywhere, is that COVID is really impacting how families are working together, how neighbors are working together. And of course, a lot of our work dealt with nursing home, you know, what was going on in the nursing homes, the care that people were receiving, you know, certain questions that we were telling caregivers to ask. And so caregiving took on a whole different, you know, spectrum, whether you were still caregiving with someone that was still in your home, or if you were still a caregiver and your loved one was in a facility. And there were certain things that we were trying to, you know, navigate and tell, you know, those caregivers what they need to look out for, and certain questions that they needed to ask.
I think in as many conversations we've had, a lot of this, what has been light has been shed during the COVID-19 is we talk all the time about we need to get back to the old days, or we need to get back to how we used to love on our neighbors and look out for our neighbors and those particular things. And also it has spotlighted all of those insufficiencies for us in our community that we need to get back to. And I think the number one thing that we're going to walk away from this thing in is that this COVID-19 has impacted all of us. And when we're talking about economic and social condition, we are in this thing together. And and so that's the reason I want to, during the month of June, is have this conversation, because I know that we, each individual and organizations, and as we have these Zoom meetings with each other, we really need to make sure that we're targeting in on the priorities that we need to target into. And we don't want to miss anything as we move forward in bringing this back, because it's so very, very important. Because you talk about senior citizens and our care, the care of them in nursing home, and I want to talk a little bit about that, but I'm going to push that a little bit further back on our conversation, because I want to come back to that, because that's so significant. I want to talk about something that you have done that I was extremely inspired by, doing your own transition for your own mother. We have watched you share that story and that journey with us, and I tell you, I have been totally inspired by someone who is caring for a loved one who has an illness. It really inspired me, and I think it did three things I want to share the public with, and I want to talk about that. Is one, I think you modeled for us how to create your own definition of family. Secondly, I think it taught us, in what you shared with us, how to love and care courageously for a sick or disabled family member. And I want to hit back on that word courageously, because I think sometimes when we are dealing with family, to be able to set your own agenda and your own pace, it takes courage to be able to do that. It does. So you showed us that. And finally, you showed us how to let go gracefully and without regret. And without regret. And that was inspiring to me, and I think you provided a guide for us, an example for us, a model for us, a 1, 2, 2, 3 step plan that we could really walk through with and duplicate in our own lives, put our own little spin on it. And that was huge to me, because we're dealing with so much now regarding how to care for loved ones, what that needs to look like, and also families look very differently. They're diverse. Our vision of the mother and the father and the picket fence and all those kind of things. So what lessons did you learn from your own experiences during that time?
Oh my gosh. You know, that is such a rich question. It really is. We can talk, we can have a series on that. So I'll just try to think of some high points. Most people that are listening probably know most of this, but I'll just quickly give some background. So about 2 years ago, God was God supplied it. It was all him to help me find my dream home. Mm-hmm. And in that, I asked my parents to come move in with me. Mm-hmm. Now, if I back up a little bit further than that, ever since I was, teenager, whatever, that was just always a part of my vision. That was, we have visions for our lives. You know, of course, we have plans, and then God changes things around. But the vision was, I was going to get married, have all this great stuff, have this home, and then I was going to bring my parents, to me. And it's funny because everyone that I've dated, when that finally happened, they were like, oh my gosh, you were saying that in high school. You always said that you would have your parents, and my ex-husband was the same way. He was like, look, I am not shocked at all, because from day one of the things you discussed with me about us getting married was make sure you understand that when I'm able to, my parents, not will you be okay, but this is going to happen. And so if you're not on board, I'm not the girl for you. Mm-hmm. So that was just always in me, because I grew up that way. So I think sometimes how you grow up is just how you turn out. Mm-hmm. So growing up, at one point we had my mother's aunt, which was my great aunt. She lived with us probably about 15 years until she, went home to glory. At one point, one of my grandmothers came to live with us. She was with us about 5 years before she passed. At another point, a grandfather came, and he was with us about 3-5 years before he passed. So I was always taught that you take care of your elders in particular, especially around those end of life. But with me, I didn't want it to have to wait to that. I always wanted them to really just enjoy things. And I felt my parents they had made so many sacrifices for my siblings and I. I mean, they just, the life that we live now is definitely because of them. There's no question about it. I give them all the, props for that. So that's how we got there. So I got the house. They were like, we're ready. Now my dad was moving a little slower, but they moved in. Also, a little history. My mother was diagnosed with her first bout of cancer almost 10 years ago. And so 10 years ago, MD Anderson told us, look, she's got about 6 months to a year.
Wow.
Get your affairs in order. Y'all heard me. That was 10 years ago. And my mother did not receive that. And she said, I'm not going to receive that. We're going to go back home to the Baptist Hospital, the oncology. Dr. Justin Baker, who is just one of our earthly angels, her oncologist. And we went from supposedly only having 6 months to a year to having 10 years.
Wow.
So we were blessed in that journey. In that journey, my mother had 5 bouts of cancer, 3 times liver, 2 times lymphoma. So anyway, I say all that to say this was just the journey that we were on. So in the last year, though, we knew when it came back this 5th time, we knew where we were going. We knew that we had reached, we were getting ready to get to the end of our destination. At this time, there was really nothing else to do. We just knew it was in God's hands. And so when you receive that, you really have to receive that. You know what I mean? On a deep spiritual level, not a mental level. Because mentally, Kimberly knew in 10 years that this could happen at any time.
Yeah.
But because she was such a fierce soldier, Mom always got through it.
Yeah.
Just last summer, last June, we were in Costa Rica celebrating my mom turning 80.
Right.
And when we took that trip, her oncologist told us then, y'all knock it out the ballpark. Enjoy this year, because this is where you're going now. I'm just going to be honest with you. And of course, the prayer was, God, we believe that you can perform another miracle if you want, and we are praying for that, and we're open to that. But we also accept your will, and so that became my prayer over the last 12 months in particular was, help me to accept your will, and more than that, help me to be the daughter that my mother and really my father too, that they need me to be in this transition and in this moment. So fast forward, of course, anybody's been a caregiver, especially with cancer, especially when they're almost 81 years old, stuff is not pretty. In the last 6 months, definitely the last 3 months were just, it was horrible. And so I'm very honest about that. I never want to sugarcoat it.
Right.
No, you're not going to, skip through the tulips every day and everything's good. It's rough, but I have such a deep faith that in my faith and in my prayer life, I was like, I don't care how rough it gets. I'm going to hold on to the master. I'm going to believe that he knows what's best. And I'm going to be by this woman's side. And there becomes a point to where the prayer then becomes not physical healing, because I accept this is not where we're going now, but thank you. I really had prayers of true gratitude where I would just be on my knees crying. Not because she was about to transition, but really I was so grateful for what he gave us.
Celebration of a life.
He gave us 10 years. And in 10 years, that meant she saw my last baby being born, both of my brother's children being born, a new home, trips to Costa Rica, Alaska, and the Bahamas. I mean, so 10 years is a blessing.
Yes.
You cannot be upset at God for that, because God has been good to us. God has been really good to my family. And then it became, I want her at peace. I don't want her to suffer. So, whenever you're ready, Lord, help me to be ready. And then I just had one really true, just flesh prayer. And that was, I want to be with her. Now, I know that's not for everybody, but I said, I want to be with her. I got to the point where every day I was like, do not let her leave in her sleep. Do not let her leave, because, the last time she had a lot of hospitalizations. We were in and out of ICU, in and out of facilities. And so the last time we got her out of ICU, that too became the prayer of, let me get her home. Just get her well so I can get her home. I want her in her room, around her grandchildren, around the dog and cats that we have, around the family. I want her to leave this place in her dream home, being at peace with her loved ones, and I want to be there. I said, my mother was there when I came into the world. I want to be there to hold her hand when she leaves. And God gave that to me. I was sitting right next to her when she took her last breath. And I thank God to this day for that. And again, when you live your life and you have honored your parents and you left nothing on the field, it is a different way of being able to accept the legacy. And I know everybody's not able to have that. And I get that. And so I never say that everybody should be like me. Everybody's journey is different. Some people, it's different if you lose your mother and you're 10 years old. Those are different situations altogether. So I know that mine is different. My mother was almost 81. It was a blessing to get to 81 anyway. And much less when you battle cancer 5 times. So I know that I had a lot of grace in our situation. But I'm thankful, for my faith. I really am, because I knew where she was going. Look, God knows my mother. Her name was written on the book. So I was in peace with that. I was like, I know where sister is going, and I believe that I will see her again. This is not the end. So I found peace in that.
And when you talk about that, and the reason I say your story was so significant, the journey was so significant, is specifically for our community, because a lot of times we don't deal with death well, and we don't we don't like to think about death, and we don't, you call it death or transitioning or whatever you want to call it. We don't deal with it well, and so even though your situation might have been unique, the awareness that came out of that for us, for us to begin to think about what we want that particular part of our lives to look like. I mean, that is so important for us to begin to realize. It doesn't matter if you're caring for your husband or your mother or your grandmother, whoever it is. Let's think about right now, and even ourselves, what do we want our situation to look like? Because,
I'm sorry, not to cut you off. I also have to give not only just my faith in God, but really my mother. My mother really prepared me. And that was, I always say because I still talk to her every day now, when I have my conversations with Mom. And I always tell her, I thank God for you for so many reasons, but one of the most important was the final lesson that you gave me, which was learning to accept and let go of her. But really, she didn't just do that at the end. My mother always talked about death. Even when we were little, and it's funny because, again, how you're raised, you turn out to be the same way. I mean, my youngest is 8. My children are now 17, 10, and 8. I say this constantly, just like my mom did. And I remember a friend was around me one day, and I said something about, if I die, when she was like, oh, no, don't say that to the children. They're going to get upset. And I thought, well, I guess I'm so used to it because my mother did that just when we were little bitty children. She was always like, look, Mommy is praying that Mommy's going to be here when y'all become adults. Mommy is praying that she's going to be here another 40, 50 years. I mean, you know, when I was like 10, she was saying that. But she would then say, but God may have other plans for Mommy. And so this is what I want you to know. This is what I want you to understand. And she would put it in terms that a 10-year-old could understand, and then in terms that a 16-year-old could understand. And then as I kept getting older, the conversations got deeper. And so that was just who she was. You know, she was very open. It's funny because my dad is the polar opposite. My dad don't want to hear the word D at all. He don't want to say my dad. He don't want to say my dad. He hates to go to the hospital. He don't want to go to funerals. You know, he is very different. And so, you know, and so his journey is different. But Mom was very open. You know, she was always like, look, something happened to me right now. You know, and this is when she was younger and healthy as a horse, as they say. So I pattern my life the same way. I try to tell my girls, you know, each, you know, couple of steps of like, you know, this is what I expect of you. This is what, you know, you need to do. This could happen. And so from that, something my mother used to always say, she said, one of the best things a mother can do is to teach her children how to live without her. She said, and that's very hard to do. She said, you don't want your children to completely fall apart. Like they, you know, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to tell you about how to grieve. Like, grieve is unique, grieve is customizable. But there are some that I have met through my life that I can tell their life just stopped.
Yes.
It truly stopped at the minute that their mother passed. Not, it was very, but no, it literally stopped. It became like just a block for them to really live fully from that point on. And so Mom was really big about that's not good. That's not what I expect out of you. That's not what I want from you.
And many live with what they consider unresolved issues. And so that's when I talked about that awareness piece and how we deal with these issues and how we prepare for it. So that we are not hung with all of these feelings and emotionals. I mean, I meet sometimes a friend over the years, it is 2 years later past the death or the transition of their loved ones, and they still have that in their conversation. And it's not a positive thing in their conversation. It's always this thing to where it just happened yesterday. And and I think at some point we have to transition to the joy that person brought in our lives.
You've got to find the joy. But now again, I think sometimes death really highlights what your relationship was in life. You know what I mean? You know, if you had a really good mother, daughter, or son, mother, you know, whatever, whoever it is, husband and wife, if it was really, really good, you know, and positive, and you all really discussed everything that you needed to discuss. I'm thinking about something that my brother was saying one day. My brother said, he said, Lord knows I miss Mommy. I miss Mommy every day. He said, but what I'm so thankful is that there was really nothing else I needed to say to her. He said there was nothing unresolved. There was not I never said I love you, and you know, because my mom said I love you every 5 seconds. Our whole lives, you know. We both talk with her all the time. I mean, from when we were in college or grad school or living here, living there. I mean, it was constant communication. It was constant, you know, affirmation. It was constant love. You know, and if there was a hiccup or a misunderstanding, you know, we quickly discussed it, you know. And I think that was one of her gifts. You know, she was good about, let's talk about it. We're not going to sweep anything under the rug. So you're upset that I said what to you and why. You know, let's go at it, you know. And it just makes a difference at the end. It really does.
And that's why this conversation is relevant when we talk about creating the beloved community, because it's all about relationships. And as you stated, it's time for us now to really look at those relationships, flip them over, turn them around, you know, look at every aspect of it. Because some relationships we should not even probably be indulging in. And
absolutely.
And then some relationships we know that when we realize during this time we have not spent enough time on. Recently, I've started walking about 5 miles a day. During COVID-19, I've gone from 0 walking to 5 miles. But my sister that I had not talked to in some time, and we we get caught up. I'm a family of the Lord's family, and she happened to call me one morning while I was walking, and the conversation went so great for the first time that we had not talked in a very, very long period of time. And we talked about things that we had never talked to before. And by the time we ended that conversation, she was in tears. Not that we talked about anything that was sad, but she was so filled with joy of having that time with me and us having that time together. So when we talk about relationships and how we need to make sure that we prioritize them, that we are checking in on them and making sure they are so very important to everything that we do, is building those relationships.
Absolutely. And I think you hit on two things there. One, you're right. You gotta weed relationships in your life, just like you weeds out of your garden. You can't give energy to the wrong people. And I think sometimes we can get really wrapped up and busy with foolishness or negativity. And you have, as we grow, you have to say, you know what, I can always pray for anybody and I can always wish the best for everybody. But there are some people that you realize, I can't be around you though. It's just not healthy. Right. Because what it does then, when I am with my family or with my tribe, is you hear me say sometimes, you're still getting that energy. Because sometimes I'm talking to them about the foolishness that I'm dealing with you. Right. And so it takes away from having that really positive and authentic connection with those that matter. And so you have to, remove the wrong people from your life. Not that you're better than anybody, right, or, none of that. But you have to remove them and give all of your energy to the right people. Right. You really want to make sure at the end of the day, the people that matter to you most, one, they know that they matter to you the most. Right. That is so crucial. And you want to have those connections. I think it's an awful thing to leave out of here and not really knowing, did my brother know I was there for him? Or do I feel as though my brother was there for me? That is so, important. And so you've got to really prioritize those relationships. And you've got to be intentional about being there for people. And I always tell people, when I hear people say, well, I can never trust anybody, nobody's ever there for me, then sometimes you need to self-check. Yes. Sometimes you need to self-check. What energy are you putting out there? Because if you put out positivity and love, you are going to get that back. I promise you will get that back. But you need to have a spirit of discernment now. You really do. You need to know who's worth being in your tribe and who's not. And that's very important to know.
And we talked about courage, too, as we move forward to create these communities that we want to call beloved communities, or even communities how we imagine them to be. It's going to take courage. I mean, real courage. Recently, I was listening to a podcast, and one of the things that they opened the conversation is the levels or the way we look at success today is really no longer sustainable. We work every day. We're constantly in a pattern of work. I got to do more. I got to get more things. We cannot continue to sustain that type of energy on a long period of time, and for us as a country and as a community to be successful and be whole, we have to really reevaluate what we look at as success. And I want to say to folks, and when I say stuff, I'm talking to Willie Jones when I say it too. Number one, I'm talking to Willie Jones, is that we have to think of as we move forward, that courage that's required is courage of our own self, to even tell our own self is, I'm going to do this because this is best for me. I'm going to do this because based on my talents, my resources, this is what I can provide. This is what I can share. This is what I can give. I think about a lot of times, and it's been said to me on many occasions, is for much is given, much is expected. Yes. And people interpret that in wrong ways, that we need to add another meeting to our task. No. We need to add another job to our task. We need to add another service to our task. What that says to us is, whatever your service is, whatever your talent is, whatever your work is to make sure that it is impactful. It doesn't mean that you need to do more. It means that you need to do it more intentionally, more impactful. That it is what you do every day is not only influencing you in your own life and your family, but is it influencing others? And sometimes that might be one particular thing that you do and you do well. So we need to make sure, and when we talk about courage, Kimberly, we need to encourage each other to be courageous.
Absolutely.
And not put people down because they say, oh, well, she's doing stuff differently. She ain't working part of the team. This is what we're doing over here. But that may not be how she does it. And remember, it's all about the bottom line. If we can accomplish greatness together, it doesn't matter if this person going in this direction, another person going in another direction. The bottom line is, are we all empowered and benefiting from it? And so I really want us together to work on that, to be intentionally about making sure that we open our ears and our eyes to what other people are trying to do and be respectful of it.
I think there's a lot there. I think about the scripture, the story of Mary and Martha, and it's always that spirit of busyness, and never really been able to stop and understand the moment that you're in. I've been around, colleagues in all of my different job capacities that I've had, and I've learned it because God knows I believe in a strong work ethic. Absolutely. I believe in getting stuff done, but work is not my life. You know what I mean? That's what I do is not the core of my existence. Right. So I don't let sometimes office politics or silliness or whatever really disrupt my peace. And I've been around some people where they will let an email send them through the roof. Yes. And then they go home and they're still talking about that stuff. And I told friends sometimes, I'm thinking, this is irrelevant, though. You have a life.
Right.
Learn to take stuff in and be like, okay, I can solve this like this. I can get this, I can shut it down. I can get done what I need to get done. But I'm not going to take this stuff home. I'm going to have a balance because if something happens to you today, I promise you, they will have somebody else in your seat in your office by 8 o'clock the next morning. So you are not that special to the people you work for. Trust me. Don't believe that. But who would miss you are the people at your household. So that's why you've got to make sure that you continue to be present with them when you get there. You have to be intentional about your time. And you have to know when you need to shut stuff down. Some people, the work phone is always on. They're checking emails 24/7. And you have to learn how to say, you know what? I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I've done what I need to do. They will survive. Nobody will die if I don't check this email until 8 o'clock the next morning. And so that's a lot to think about. You got to have work-life balance. You have to know what's important. Work is not going to get a 911 fire, full alarm, emergency reaction from me. That's reserved for if God forbid something happens to my children, my father, my brother, my sister. That gets that energy. Work is not going to get that. You've got to keep things in perspective. But then, as far as, supporting others, I do think that's truly a part of a beloved community is understanding that everybody has gifts, everybody has callings. People can walk in whatever lane they choose to walk in. I'm just always amazed when that bothers other people. Why does it bother you that Willie is walking in that lane? Who cares? That's Willie's calling, and Willie is doing a great job of walking in that lane. And so I think sometimes we miss our own blessings because we're too busy trying to block the blessing from somebody else. And I say that often is that, you can't be blessed when you operate that way. I promise you, the more you are supportive of others, the more you try to help other people reach their potential, God is going to bless you. You don't have to worry about getting yours. It's not a competition. There's not a certain amount of, opportunities or advantages in the world. When you truly know that you belong to the master, he will always have something for you. So you don't have to cut somebody off at the kneecaps for you trying to get ahead.
And look, then to change that mindset, we're going to need each other to do that. We're going to have to gently remind ourselves that this is what we need to do. And when in doing part of prepping for this conversation and for our conversation going into June, about the
Right.
beloved community. One of the things that was very highlighted even during the time of Dr. King is this this hereditary or a generational thing that we have in our African American community, where when we think about blood pressure and diabetes and all of the health issues, it's because a lot of times, because of the issues that impact our communities that we're dealing with, that we are in a constant state of fight and flight. And that keeps our blood pressure raised. That keeps us not, from a health and well-being standpoint, we cannot sustain those types of levels anymore and be productive. Right. So we have the ability to change that, but we have to do it together. And I specifically want to call on women to be able to take leadership in this particular area. We know that many women are leading their families and leading their communities and leading their businesses and their jobs. I want to call on each other, for us as women, to make sure that we take leadership of this, so that we don't, as a community, don't no more operate in this state of where we're constantly at that level, to where we either fighting, we have constantly fighting for something, we're running for something. It has got to be at a time to where we change our quality of life, that we are experiencing joy in our communities, that we are educating and inspiring our children. We're spending time inspiring and innovating our community instead of trying to constantly correct the problems and the issues that impact our community.
You know, I think that really falls under our role, our community role, our collective role, and our individual role. And I know I've had to really learn this as well. Ironically, it was something else that my mother taught, which was funny because she did not practice it. She used to always say, you know, the generation that I came from, you know, we just felt black women, we were supposed to be the old mute. You know, everything was supposed to be on our back. We were just supposed to keep on climbing up the mountain, as you used to say. Just keep dumping on my back. I can do it. That's what a black woman is meant to do. And it's funny, she said, but I don't want you to think that. She said, yes, I want you to be concerned about the community. She said, but you have to be concerned about your life and your welfare. She said, that's why we are mentally broken, emotionally broken, sometimes financially, because, you know, there are some of us that believe in giving, and we should give, but not to your detriment, not to where you can't pay your own light bill, because you were taking care of Willie, Earl, Amy, Sue, Betty. You kept giving all these people all this stuff. So, you know, it's a way where you have to learn how to say, these are the things that are going to be important to me. And sometimes people don't get that, especially if you do have a platform. I mean, I personally get it myself. People will call me and say, oh, you didn't post this, or you didn't make a statement about that. And I said, look, let me tell you something. Unfortunately, it is too much injustice and foolishness that happens every day in the world. I cannot lose my mind every day. I can't do it. And every issue cannot be my issue. It's okay that it's your issue. I'm glad that's something you want to fight for. I'm glad that's your issue. Go forth and fight for it. There's certain things that are important to me. I narrowed them down. Those things I will support. I will speak out about. I will do what I need to do. But, you know, I can't be everywhere. You know, I can't have an issue every day. I can't be the poster child for everything that's happening. Number one, I think that makes you ineffective, first of all. Yes. I really do.
Right.
You know, and again, it gets back to, what do I have left there for home? You know, if I'm giving everything to everybody that wants me to give to, whether it's my time, my passion, my interest, or my money, I will have nothing for my own.
That's correct.
You know, and you know, again, mom and dad too, really with that, they were like, look, you know, it starts at home. You have to always make sure that you and yours are taken care of first.
Yeah.
And then whatever time you caught off for other things, you know, like I said, I'm all for having issues that you support and fight for. But you know, there's some people that I know that it's everything. And, and I often say, but that's why you always stress. That's why you always run down. That's why you say you don't know what's going on with this person or with home, because you're always at this stuff. I mean, just like with boards, you know, I get asked to sit on a board every time I turn around. And some of them are great boards, and I think they're doing great work, but I have truly embraced the spirit of saying no.
Yeah.
You know, no, that's not on my agenda this year. I'm already sitting on this. I'm already dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't take that on. And I'm tickled because people really do get upset with you.
Mm-hmm.
They really do. They really expect you to do it all. But again, just like with the workplace, if something happens to me, my church will go on, my sorority would go on, all of my organizations I'm affiliated, they will go on, all these community issues, they will go on.
Mm-hmm.
But who will be left still breathing me? My children,
That's right.
and my family. And so that's why I've gotten really good the older I've gotten to really understand that I'm not going to miss out on what's most important to me. Mm-hmm. I have a few things. I will give it all I have to those things, but you're not going to have me in a conference call every day. You're not going to have me flipping and running all over town and all, right. Every time I turn around, I'm on some committee.
Yeah.
Look, no offense to those that want to live like that, but it's just not for me.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I want my children to know that I was there for them. There's something that my mom used to say, and I use it all the time now. When I die, I don't want the funeral program to be as big as a binder
mm-hmm.
and all these awards, all these resolutions, all these community people speaking on my behalf. But my children, if you know them, will tell you, I didn't really know her though.
Mm-hmm.
She was never there for me.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, then you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
And mom used to say she knew many people that was the case. Mm-hmm. They were very celebrated, very decorated, very mm-hmm. awarded. But then she would say, but it was a bad situation between them and their children. Mm-hmm. They really weren't there for them. Mm-hmm. And the children had issues because of that. And so I'd much rather my children have all the great stuff to say to me mm-hmm. and I don't get the resolutions. I'm good with that. That's I'm not living for the accolades of other people, mm-hmm. Because who matters most, I think when we get to the kingdom, God will ask me, what did I do for the children that I entrusted you with?
Right.
What did you do, for your mother and father? What did you do for your sibling? I think that's more important than him saying, what did you do for this organization? I don't think that's important to him at all.
And I think also as we move forward, many of us are not there yet. Some of us are part there. Some of us are already there. And look, it's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight. You have to take one step at a time. You have to evaluate your own situation one step at a time. Sometimes you have to make one change one habit, one step at a time. You add one phone call to your list of people you want to reach out to and empower.
Yes.
You want to do one and the reason it needs to be one step at a time, and it's okay to be one step at a time, because it's your agenda. This is your agenda.
Yes.
This is your life. This is your journey. Yeah. And so you on nobody's time schedule, not any earthly person anyway. So we can do it. We can do it. We have to do it one step at a time. And as we move forward, I know we at Women for Progress in our organization and the powerful, amazing women that are part of this organization, it's about empowering each other one step at a time, help supporting, linking hands in the work that we do. I said to a couple of members this morning, as you go out every day, when you plan, don't plan alone. If you're going out, don't go out alone. Always think of who else that I can bring into this conversation, into this activity to make sure you empower. So this has been an amazing conversation as always, Kimberly.
Oh, I always have a good time. Yeah.
But I always like to leave at least with a call to action too. And I got one more thing I need to cover, but I want to talk about also AARP is doing several things around policy that impacts our communities, because that's the other piece that Dr. King talks about is policy that will help create this beloved community. And you all talked about, of course, broadband. That's been huge with parents right now, education. But what are some of the things this year in 2020 that AARP is supporting, is ushering in, and putting some energy behind that we as a community need to get on board with and help be part of that conversation?
Well, quickly in a nutshell, because of COVID-19, everything changed.
Right.
And so the agenda changed everywhere. We've always done work with health disparities, and COVID definitely shined the light on that even more so. There usually, in most states, there are more African Americans and Latinos that are really impacted by COVID-19. They usually have the more serious, cases and deaths. And of course, that's because of a lot of the disparities in the other areas that we briefly touched on earlier. Also, looking at whatever another, COVID package may look like, looking at, extending unemployment benefits, look at increasing money for the SNAP program. These are things that we've been lobbying and speaking with our members of Congress about. Nursing homes, that's a really big one for us. There are several things that, that's huge. In Mississippi, we roughly have about 16,000 of our residents that reside in nursing homes or, rehab facilities or, assisted living places. And, and again, we always say we're not bashing them because some of them do some amazing work and we understand that. But it's about, better transparency. We've been telling people that you need to be asking the nursing homes where your loved ones are, especially when we got to the point of where you could not go in and physically check on your loved one anymore. That brought a lot of anxiety to people, rightfully so. So, we were concerned about having legislation that really spoke with, really making the nursing homes, letting us know, is there an outbreak at your facility? If so, how many? Have there been deaths? What safeguards have you put into place? Do you have enough PPEs for your staff, and for the residents? Also, virtual communication, that's big. You can't physically see your loved one. Are you, open and able to set up, regular phone calls or regular, iPad FaceTime? How are we going to make sure that they're still connected and they're not feeling completely isolated from their loved ones? And so, all of these things that we kind of just we want the caregiver, the family, and the nursing home to really have a good partnership so that you can make some really good informed decisions. I would like, thankfully, my mother was not at one, but if she, honey, I'm not even going to say, because if she was at one, I would have driven through the wall. I would have got my truck and would have knocked down the wall. So, but that's just me, people. That's just me. They would have had to let her out.
Yeah.
But seriously, I am serious. But anyway, but we want them to say, if there has been an outbreak, what precaution did you take? Are you putting them in a separate, wing or ward? And then those that have not been infected, and then have you still testing them? How often are you testing them? These are just things that are important. And so, and as of right now, there's not a federal guideline for that. And so that's been something that we really want, the Congress to act on, to really making this to have, transparency.
And that's is so key. I have a loved one that's in the nursing home, and I tell you, I was telling a friend that I think sometimes they call ID me sometimes when I'm calling so much. But, even before the COVID-19, many nursing homes were having challenges because of management issues. Like I said, there's some great facilities out there, and some of them do their best. But there was challenges even before COVID-19. So now I'm glad that you are fighting for the number one thing you say is transparency. We need nursing homes. And look, if nursing homes do provide a policy to where they are sharing information on a regular basis, on a proactive basis, to where we are not, and they provide point of contact for people, that people can engage folks instead of you're calling for one simple question and you got to talk to 10 different people, and you're being transferred to this RN or this worker.
The right person.
Yes.
We've heard from some members and volunteers that I can't even get anybody, or no one ever returns my call, and nobody has an answer to anything. That's not acceptable. That's absolutely not acceptable.
What is there a number you're recommending that people contact that have issues with trying to connect with their loved ones in the nursing facility?
Right now, everything, if it's a nursing home complaint, should really go to the Mississippi Department of Health. They're the ones that oversee. So if you've got complaints, if you're not getting adequate information, if you feel as though you're getting the runaround, that's who you need to call and lodge a complaint. It's just, again, it's one of those things where it's very unfortunate. I think it's very difficult for people to not be able to be in. But you also got to think of the resident. There are some residents where they're used to seeing their loved ones, and so now they can't see them. And especially if it's a facility that can't help with phone calls, or can't help with FaceTime, that's a problem. Their mental health is going to decline, and studies will tell you when the mental and emotional decline, so will the physical. Yes. So that's just not a good situation. So you really want to be vigilant. You want to be proactive as that caregiver, and you want to make sure that you're getting the right information for you to continue to make the best decisions for your loved one.
And I want to give two pieces of information too, as a caregiver, is that you need to make sure that you are logging information. I suggest you, when you talk to people, put the name of the person you spoke to, the time the date and time you spoke to them, what was the conversation about. You need to make sure that you are keeping a record of all of that information. Because I tell you, there's going to be a lot of he said, she said, and all of that when you get to the right person. So you need to make sure that you are logged. And don't be discouraged. No. And I think for many of us, we feel guilty that we're calling so much because we're not getting the information that we need. Please know that you have rights. You have rights, and you need to pick up if your loved one been in the facility for 3 or 4 years and you can't find your paperwork when you first enrolled, go back and ask for a copy of your rights. That's right. For your person, so you can go back and reread, because you'll be very, very surprised the rights that you have as a caregiver in these situations. Absolutely. Yeah. That's reach out. I want to stay connected. I want to give the information for Women for Progress, because if you can't get connected to the right folks and you have questions, we want to help guide you to that process too. We have within our organization a wealth of social workers and mental health experts and individuals who have organizations and nonprofits with care groups that you can connect to. So we have information and resources that we want to share with you. Email us at mail, M-A-I-L, at womenforprogress.net, mail@womenforprogress.net. You can call us at 601-259-6770. And all of our contact information is on our website at womenforprogress.net. Now, you can inbox. I get a lot of messages from Messenger and inbox. That's really not the best place to contact Women for Progress, because ain't nobody paid staff at Women for Progress. So use the channels that we give you. Every now and then, I'll get a message that maybe is a week old, but you might have an urgent need. You may need to be connected with an attorney, and we have a great group of women that are attorneys that are in all particular type of area. So if you need help and you need help immediately, you need to email us or either to call us. And that's the quickest way that you're going to be responded to. And we are extremely responsive to calls. So if you don't get us immediately within 24 hours, latest 48 hours, we're going to respond back to you, if not immediately to you, with help. We don't have all the answers. Let me be very, very, very clear. So if you call Women for Progress thinking they got all the answers, we do not. But I promise you, we will help connect you to the right person. If we don't have the answers, we'll help you get connected. So please call on us anytime. Specifically, if you're a woman and you need a group of women that's going to love on you and support you and empower you, and where you can get dialogue that's going to inspire you, we'd love to have you as a member. We are not a social organization. We are a community service organization. So you got to give us a little time, okay? Give us a little of your time, a little of your service. But it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be joy-filled, I promise you. And so we want you to reach out to us and connect with us. Of course, I want to remind you that we go to womenforprogressradio.com for a list of all of our podcasts. We've just launched 2 new podcasts, one called Dear Sister that started last week, once on the 3rd Wednesday of each month at 5 o'clock. And tonight, I'm telling you, you do not want to miss a conversation with Dr. Olga Osby. She has a lineup of guests that's you're going to walk away with some stuff in your pocket that not only that you can use, but you're going to be able to share with your community. We're so excited about Dr. Olga Osby. If you want to find out more about her, and you'll find out more about her conversation at 5:30 today, but go to the website cleanslate.com. cleanslate.com. And she does amazing work. She's in partnership with Clean Slate with Dr. Mary Nellums, who's another social worker and professor at Jackson State University, who is both. Yeah. These two women, I tell you, they are just, I cannot say enough. I can gush over them all day long. They are so great. But tonight at 5:30 to 6, from 5:30 to 6, she has a podcast called Pathways to Wealth and Wellness. And we want you to tune in, and we want you to support that podcast. Please go to our Facebook page and like us. Please send us your name and your email address so we can add you to our database so you can keep an eye on all that we do. During this process, when we cannot touch each other and hug each other, we are connected through Zoom and Facebook and all our social media. But I tell you, I'm going to a state of withdrawal. I miss those women. I miss our lunch and learns. Which is always empowering. We're doing that by Zoom now, we think we're so thankful for being able to have vehicles and resources in place to be able to continue this conversation. But there is nothing like looking across the table during a meal and being able to see your sister, be able to talk with her, be able to share what you're doing, be able to connect with her, and be able to empower each other. So we look forward again down the road. We don't know how long that's going to be. That we come back together at Lunch and Learn every month and be able to connect. But in the meantime, we're having patio conversations and kitchen table conversations. And if you want to be part of that, you want to reach out to us also. So that's womenforprogress.net. So thank you so much, Kimberly, for this great conversation. Thank you for giving us this time. And we wish you so much for you and your family and safety. And we're so proud of the asset of AARP. You and your organization and your team here in Mississippi really empower us, not only with your resources, but also with your commitment to our community. AARP is going to remain to be essential. When we're talking about essential businesses and organizations, AARP is essential. And I'm going to tell you right now, and it has nothing to do with age. If you haven't got your AARP membership, you need to sign up today. There's a lot of opportunities out there for AARP. Oh, one last thing. This is wonderful. I don't think it's an AARP tool, but I got it through Consumer Cellular, which I think AARP acknowledges or whatever. There's an iPad called GrandPad, GRAND Pad. It is the best thing since sliced bread. If you got a loved one that's in the nursing facility, of course, I know it's a challenge now trying to get them the equipment. But GrandPad is the most wonderful tool that you want to get for your loved ones. It is a GrandPad or iPad GrandPad that is user-friendly. If you have a person that's senior, if you have a senior citizen or elderly person or person that's disabled, it's extremely simple. What I love about it, Kimberly, it limits the person who also has access to your loved ones. Right. Because the person that can call them on that iPad is the ones that you give them access to. Yes. So you don't have to worry about spam or about them being hit with all kinds of
predators. You have to take care of your older loved ones just like you have to do your children, and that's no offense to them. Yeah. But if there's a diminished mental capacity or what have you, predators are really following that. Yeah. And it's horrible what they will do. Yeah. So you've got to really monitor and know what's going on.
I cannot imagine being in this situation with the nursing homes with my loved one and not having that device. I'm able to see my loved ones. I can see when they're feeling bad. I can I can look them in the eyes. They can see us. My grandchildren have been just amazing at connecting with our loved ones through this device. So I'm going to tell people to go to grandpad.com. Check it out. I think it's less than $40 a month is the service. It is just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. And every time I was in Walmart the other day and got in a conversation with somebody, and I told them about the GrandPad, and they took out their pad and said, how can I find it? Where do I need to get it?
It's a great device. It really is. It really is.
Yeah. So I'm going to end on that little tidbit. Hey, that little piece of resource alone should empower your hour that you've been with us.
Oh, I love it. I had such a good time with y'all, too. I did.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm sure we're going to do this again. Thank all of you all for supporting the Women for Progress Radio Network, which is a huge auxiliary of Women for Progress. We are celebrating over 42 years of community service through Women for Progress. Our radio show, we're celebrating over 10 years this year with Women for Progress Radio, a radio network that is programming by women, for women, produced by women here in the state of Mississippi. So we're so proud, but we could not do that without your support and your continually being connected with us. So you've been tuned in to the Working Woman Report every Wednesday from 12 to 1 p.m. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you at 5:30 on Facebook Live and also on our radio networks. Good day and have a great weekend.
You too. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.